Don't know what my shirt is. I will. Some people don't know what my shirt is. Uncle Howard, Eileen's grandfather, right there. There she is. I'm explaining it. I'm explaining this.
Wait, what's your shirt about?
I know. But so anyway, he owned a radio station. He was working for a radio station. Maybe somebody can help me out here. But it went bankrupt
In Idaho Falls.
in Idaho Falls.
He bought the one.
And he bought all the stuff for kind of like Mark started out a little bit in the mechanical thing, right? The same story. So everything went down to really cheap because it was bankrupt. So he got it, and it was his lifelong dream to work in radio, really. And then he started when I was like, I think I was 16 or 17. I went and he gave me a tour of the radio station, which was really cool. And he had this T-shirt, and he goes, "Here, it's got your name on it and everything." So that was kind of fun. And then he had a poster, which I was telling Eileen about, but it said 25 years of rock and roll, because rock and roll, and he was explaining to me that he was like a renegade to be playing rock and roll music. And so KRDG, that was like the call letters for rock and roll for most of California, like Northern California, and he was the only one playing it. So on this thing, it used to be in my room, but when we moved from Utah to Washington, it went the way of the earth. But it had a picture of him with Elvis and a picture of him for each of the 25 years with like Gladys Knight and the Pips and like tons of people that were like, holy cow. And they all knew him because they went out there to support him playing their music, and it was all beginning and everything. I mean, it's sort of weird to think rock and roll was beginning and he was one of the main supporters.
And that's why he took up flying, because he still had a station up at Idaho Falls, and so then he could fly between Redding and Idaho Falls.
So good flying. Has his own radio station.
I was great too. Got to eat it. Check it out.
Against everybody's wishes, he learned to fly an airplane so he could go between Redding and Idaho Falls to run the one in Idaho Falls too, and then went back to Redding. So that's why he flew. And so on the holidays, Aunt Edith would come with 7 kids in the car, and they had an old station wagon, and they would drive to Pocatello, and then Uncle Howard would fly in, and then he'd give us airplane flights around Pocatello. So first time I was in an airplane was in his airplane. The first time I saw my house from above was in my airplane. The first time I saw Pocatello from above. So we'd all go out to the airport, and he'd give us a little flight around it and then back at Pocatello Airport.
You know what, that building or whatever is still around? I'm like 30 minutes away from it.
No idea.
He was like the sweetest rebel though you've ever met in your life. I gotta say. It's funny because he was a sweet bishop guy, but boy, he was on the edge of everything new and the ultimate fun uncle of all time, because everything that in the radio station, he would trade people for advertising. So they came into Salt Lake for General Conference, and I think half of my feeling about General Conference is from Uncle Howard, because it meant everybody was coming in, but you didn't realize that it was just everybody was going to go see Uncle Howard and Aunt Edith in their hotel where they had a few rooms and an elevator where almost every year we got stuck in the elevator because we overloaded it with too many cousins, and then you'd have to ring the alarm, which was kind of fun, but then they'd come and get you out, and we all went to the pool, and I can't say that we walked quietly by the side of that pool. But anyway, you were like, everybody was in the pool and out of the pool, and he and grandmother, they would always sit and talk, like, not looking at each other. You would think that they weren't talking to each other, but they were talking. Yeah, but not sitting there. They were like this, but looking this way and different things, and he was looking this way, and they would be having lots of old jokes and discussions while they talked. If you were in the little mix, as a little kid walking around listening to them.
So when Uncle Howard came, everyone would be at Grandma's house, and I remember one time there was a little grocery store down the street. Actually, there's two different ways, and they were just tiny grocery stores. And we'd asked, and we couldn't get any. It cost a penny for a big piece of candy in those days. So I was told there was no money for candy. And I went out, and Uncle Howard said, "Why are you so sad?" And I said, "There's no money for candy." He gives me a nickel, which is like 5 pieces of candy. After a while, I knew which uncle to hit every time. I was like 5 or something.
But that went for decades. That went for decades that you knew Uncle Howard was the party guy.
Always had money for candy.
And always money for candy.
There's always money for candy.
And the grandkid was pretty special. We got anything you wanted.
It's true though, and when we would go to Redding and stay for a couple weeks, if we were going to Redding, it was hilarious. But I won't tell that story. But anyway, but there was like,
Oh wait, come on.
No, there will be no telling of the story. But anyway, but what was fun was like, literally, you would walk along. I would walk along with Tabitha and Heather, and they'd go. I'd go. I'm hungry. They'd go. Oh, well, what do you want? And you'd be like, oh, you'd go. What do you want? And we'd go. They'd go. Do you want Mexican? I was like, sure. They go. Oh, let's go in here. So we walked in the Mexican restaurant. And they brought out tons of food, and then we walked out, and they go, oh, it's on the radio station. We were like, wow, we're with stars. Anyway, it was like,